Welcome, everybody, to a special preview edition of All In with Art Stapleton, a New York Giants podcast brought to you by NorthJersey.com and The Record. I'm your host, Art Stapleton, and it is Giants, Philly, and who else better to get than NFL Network's Mike Garafolo. Mikey G, what's up? We got breaking news going on, just getting ready for the podcast. Fines are getting handed out. A.J. Brown not practicing. What's up, man?
Lots. Are you going to break down the breaking news, or you already did, or I'm just joining here, so I just want to make sure we get all the info, because ahead of Giants Eagles 2, they announced the penalties from Giants Eagles 1, which was about where I figured. 6 figures for Brian Daboll, 100,000, 200,000 to the team, which is a drop in the bucket, and Cam Scadaboo 15,000. Which is a couple of games sitting, maybe one game sitting courtside at the Knicks. I don't know what the going rate is.
Yeah, I mean, that was real. I mean, we all anticipated that they were going to do their best to give, as harsh of a penalty as they could, but they're kind of restricted in terms of what they were doing. And, I mean, as you pointed out, as the release just came out, the important part from a Giants perspective is that they don't believe Daboll was trying to interfere, but yeah. Reality is it's what it looks like and what the perception is, and they just could not allow it to go by with just a simple, hey, don't do that again kind of situation.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, the players get the helmet taken away from them. Nobody's supposed to have any interference with regard. I mean, even the team doctors, right? You got the red hat unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant who is supposed to be an independent person. This way there's no at least illusion of impropriety at all. And so for a team, for a coach and a player to be involved there, regardless of whether they interfered with the actual care, you've got to come down on that, and the league did.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, does it affect the Giants moving forward into the Eagles game? No. I mean, does it affect the overall perception of Brian Daboll and his sideline behavior? Yeah, it depends on who you talk to, but there's certainly a feeling around the league that Daboll's kind of been, a little loose with how he's handled his sideline, even going all the way back to, throwing the tablet down at Daniel Jones. And, look, the bottom line is, somebody asked me this week, is Daboll such a maniac on the sidelines? And I was like, what's the difference between Daboll and some of the things that Nick Sirianni has done? Well, Nick Sirianni has won a Super Bowl and continues to win for one of the best franchises going right now. Yeah. And Daboll is trying to get out of his own way, and the Giants are as well. So that's why it's going to be magnified so much.
I mean, if you're going to, for anything that you could raise with regard to criticism of the Giants in the last couple of years, I don't think sideline demeanor is actually that. And go back to, his reaction to Shane Bowen, and then coming back and standing up for him, which I think, Brian Burns as well. And we took it, hearing him say dropping 8 in coverage. Right. We're like, well, you got the head coach yelling at the defensive coordinator. You got Brian Burns coming off the field questioning the play call, which he then clarified was not about that, which maybe he could have done sooner. I don't know, but was not about that. Was, I guess then he was saying we dropped 8 in coverage and we still let up the pass, which was, the other end of it. So, I don't. Tom Coughlin had some sideline reactions from time to time too that were emotional, and I remember one game in particular. He left the Vikings game in like 2005 or something. Maybe 06. He left too much time on the clock because they called timeout after a big play to Plaxico, because Tom's running down with his arms waving, and Plax thought that meant to call timeout, so he called timeout. And I remember writing about that. It was like they should have bled more time off the clock at that point. But that whole, maybe Tom needs to chill a little bit on the sideline, because even his players don't know what the heck's going on. So every coach, not every coach, but many coaches are going to be excited on the sideline and emotional. I don't. To me, that's not an issue that we need to talk about.
I agree with you. I mean, the bottom line is, if you win, nobody cares about it. If you lose, they're going to criticize you for whatever you can do that's causing you, they think, to lose. Let's talk. I assume you're down in Philly now, or at least in the area. You've been all over the Eagles and the Giants the last couple of weeks. But this A.J. Brown situation, what have you heard? I mean, up until today, it was almost like, okay, probably be out there a little bit, and then he'll play on Sunday. But DNP again for the third straight day, and then Sirianni not really giving much of an answer. What's your take on what's going on here with A.J. Brown?
Listen, I've been around A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts since they've been a duo. And look, it started with A.J. recruiting Jalen to Philly, and vouching for him, and the relationship between the two. And really, it hasn't been. And the last couple of years, there's been pushback. There's been like, oh, you guys are making too much of this. This is typical sideline banter. This is how these two operate. This year, there's been no pushback. And I'm not saying that the Eagles staff isn't doing his job, but at some point, the way I'm reading into it is, you guys want to act like this? You guys want to behave like this? We can't tell people that they're wrong. Like, they see it. They hear it. AJ keeps putting it on social media. And Sirianni asked about it. Jalen Hurts asked about it. They gave non-answers. They gave hey, we're focused on the whole type of thing. They didn't say, oh, you guys are reading the wrong things into the social media. Even if A.J. Brown didn't mean anything by it with regard to Jalen Hurts and whoever, just putting that up there, he knows that that's going to be interpreted. So at this point, you don't want anybody to, which he hasn't said anything, he hasn't come back, and he hasn't fired back. But you add the hamstring on top of that. It's 1:00, injury report coming out in 3 hours. We'll see about the designation. At this point, if you're asking me, I wouldn't expect him to be out there. But Nick Sirianni did say he could play without practicing. I'm not anticipating he's going to be out there. We'll see if something changes. Last week did not cure everything. He gets in the end zone, he gets his big plays, and you're like, oh, they all lived happily ever after. Not really. There's still stuff that needs to be ironed out there.
And let's talk about this game, Mike, because we were both there at MetLife on October 9th, 2 weeks ago, yesterday. Shocked the way that game ended up. The fact that the Giants finally put one together to basically beat up the Eagles on both sides of the ball. Now, we know who wasn't out there. Jalen Carter not being out there. Landon Dickerson not being out there. I mean, look, the Eagles were without top players. Giants were as well. No Malik Neighbors, that kind of thing. But you have the game that the Giants had in Denver. And you would think in years past, the Giants locker room would be in turmoil. This guy pointing at fingers at that guy. I've been here this week, Mike, and I don't know what you've heard by talking to people in the building, but this does not seem like a team that just suffered one of the most epic losses in recent NFL history. And then you look at the Eagles and you would think they've beaten the Giants 12 times in a row at the Link, and everything has gone against the Giants in Philly. Now the Eagles seem like the team that is still in a little turmoil going into Sunday. I mean, have you seen anything like this in a while between these two teams?
No, and I still feel like it's going to rear its ugly head at some point. Washington, if they had put together the sort of season that they were going to have, the fire would really be to the Eagles' butts right now. And it may wind up being the Cowboys that really do it down the stretch here. They're going to have a big game in November. That might determine a lot of things. The Eagles also do have the Commanders twice in 3 weeks to end the season. It's weird how they played their clusters between the Giants and the Commanders together this season. I went back this week and I was like, all right, teams that have blown historic leads, what happened to them the following week? And it's hard. It's hard to do apples and apples because, first of all, a few of them happened in the playoffs, so that team didn't play the next week. Some of them were terrible, weird teams like Jeff Saturday's Colts a couple of years ago when they blew that lead to the Vikings and lost 20-3 the next week. Yeah. There was one team that wound up playing, like the Saints were involved some way. So it may have been them or they played, but it was like a bad early 1980s, like the team, they played a horrible team the next week. So they wound up winning, but you really can't. Really the only sort of similar comparison I could make was the 2010 Giants who blew the game against the Eagles with the Matt Dodge game the following week, which was a miserable experience for all of us involved because we had to go to Green Bay on Christmas. And that team was just like checked out at that. It was 45-17, I think was the final. Then they got stranded in Green Bay too. Remember that? They couldn't get out. Yeah. So it was just that. And that team to me was still rattled the following week. Now they wound up winning week 17. That was the kiss my ass game.
I was just going to say that, the kiss my ass game in the locker room.
That was 3 crazy weeks, to be honest with you. So I don't know. I mean, here's what I think about this team. I think this team's got enough young guys that they shake this stuff off. I really, especially at quarterback, running back, and one of the pass rushers. I think that is probably helping things with this team, and why I don't know that there'll be some kind of hangover. I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and play well, and you go, oh, okay, how'd they shake that off so quickly? We'll see.
And that's the vibe I get here this week is that, because of Jackson Dart, look, the Giants, we've seen a lot of losing from this team in the last 12, 13 years, and a lot of, false bravado, the idea of, oh, we're good, we're going to be good, we're going to be good. But it was almost like they were selling what they didn't buy themselves. They believe in this quarterback. I mean, they believe in this quarterback. They're actually going to a place where they never win, but they've always been exposed on the offensive line. These two tackles for the Giants, and Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor, are playing very well. Yeah. And the Eagles' pass rush is not the same. So, I think that's kind of why they buy into it as well a little bit, is that they feel like they might be better than what they've shown on the scoreboard in some of these games.
Yeah, if Brandon Graham is not mic'd up for this game, it's going to be a huge mistake by NFL. Well, I shouldn't say, but Graham may not agree to it, but that's got to be on the ask. I'll find out about that on Sunday when I'm down to see if he's got a wire on him, because him and what he's going to say to Dart. I wasn't here a couple of weeks ago. Different story today. That kind of stuff. But you can't be Jackson Dart and all he's been, and Scattaboo too. You can't pose for that stuff after the game and then go down to Philly and be scared, even after what happened in Denver. You've got to be able to go short memory and go into an environment like that and say, I'm going to almost Aaron Rodgers to the Bears type mentality of I own you. I am here for the next 15 plus years. Get used to this face, that kind of stuff. That's got to be the attitude for these guys. So I'm excited for this game. I mean, I've been asked this week, I've been on a few shows hey, what game are you excited? I'm excited about this game. I really, for a lot of reasons, I think it's got the potential to be a really, especially so close to the trading deadline and what that means for the Eagles. People keep suggesting AJ Brown. Here comes another one I've put out so many times where I say he's not going to get traded. And then if he gets traded, there's going to be about 30 clips of me saying he's not getting traded. So I'm still treading lightly on this one, but I've been given no indication that they are even remotely entertaining that notion.
We were just talking about it in the workroom here. Wouldn't it be classic Howie Roseman, though, to trade AJ Brown and then take whatever they get from AJ Brown and go get a Chris Olave or a Jalen Waddle or somebody that might not be on the market right now, but Howie makes a sweet enough offer and somehow replaces AJ Brown with another very good wide receiver that may fit better with Jalen Hurts? I don't know.
That'd be I do. Now here's another thing I was asked, if he doesn't get dealt before the trading deadline, could he be traded this offseason? Yes. I think that is, if they get through this trade deadline, because to me, I was trying to think in my head, maybe there's a way this gets smoothed over. They win enough. There's enough touchdowns. But the problem with that is they're the defending Super Bowl champions. So there's really only one way to win enough, right? You've got to win it again. And even if they do, that's a good point at which, all right, we won again. All right, now it's a great time to exit this whole thing. So, are AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts both back with the Eagles in 2026? Probably not at this point. No.
Yeah. So tell me, what are you thinking in terms of what we know going into the first game? The Eagles. I was actually in one of the bathrooms in the press box before the game, and I heard several times, we should be all right tonight. Yeah, exactly. We should be all right. We should be all right. No problem. And then the Giants go out and basically kick their asses from pillar to post. I mean, that's essentially what you do. When you can get Jason Kelce to be slobbering all over Jackson Dart and Cam Scattaboo, you did something well as the Giants. But what's the feeling going into Sunday? I mean, fluke, because in years past it would have been Philly fans. I could hear, it was a fluke. We're gonna beat them up. We're gonna do this. We're gonna get Jalen Carter back. We're getting Mitchell for the whole game. Yeah. What's the sense you get down there from? I know you know a lot of people down in Philly, obviously. Yeah. What are they viewing this game as?
The sense I get is don't fall behind. Don't fall behind. because now you got the home crowd that's going to get all over you. Yeah. You're going to have a healthy dose of Cam Scatterbo. You're going to be playing the kind of football you don't want to play, which is you become one-dimensional on offense, and then you can't play and do things you want to do defensively. And then you're going to get in your whole, like, does this team have our number now? Like, have they turned the tide? Are we now not going to be the team that dominates them game in and game out, year in and year out? Like, that's going to start to ruminate here and magnify any of the issues in the locker room. So, yeah, if I'm the Giants, and Jackson Dart's played well early in games. I know that's been a big thing that they've been extremely happy about with the Giants, how well he's played early in games. So, to me, usually it's NFL, you can tune in for the second half. Not as much as the NBA, you tune in for the last 5 minutes, but first quarter is going to be uber important in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think in terms of where they're at for this game, let's talk Giants trade deadline, because that's been a big topic the last couple of weeks. Would the Giants make a deal? Do they really think see themselves as a playoff contender? Is that a reason to make a deal? Would they be looking for a wide receiver to go beyond this season to kind of build with Jackson Dart, Neighbors coming back? What's your sense on the Giants from the trade perspective? And also, they do have some pieces here that might be attractive. Kayvon Thibodeau might be a guy who, down the stretch. What are you thinking? What are you hearing? Obviously, a week and a half out or so from the trade deadline.
Yeah, my sense from having conversations there was that they were not looking to do something like that at the receiver position at this point. We still got a week and a half left, so things could change, but that they were not actively looking for, I know Olave and Waddle and all these names that are mentioned, which honestly, I'd heard that both teams were interested in keeping those guys anyway. So I don't think something will happen at this point. I'll have more conversations this weekend. We'll see how it goes. I mean, listen, and it could go one of two ways, right? Like, they could win and still sort of be in contention as a team. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, or they think they're going to make the playoffs. The other way it could go is, like, it's so bad that we don't have help around him. But, whether it's Theo Johnson or Wandale, like, these guys are contributing and doing what they need to do. It's also guys that you want to develop with him. Like, okay, let's try to develop in-house and not have to use extra capital on draft picks and money that we can use this offseason. So as I sit here now, no, I don't expect any big splashy move, but things could change.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to be peeling guys off of this roster either, even if they go in on Sunday and get beat up a little bit by Philly. I mean, I don't think that helps the current regime to start peeling off guys for future picks when you don't even know who's going to be here next year, and that's the reality of it. I'll leave you with that, because I remember conversations you and I had before the season about the future, and everybody wanted to talk about the future and hot seats and all that stuff. Me personally, I think this is a question for January and where they're at in January. What do you think? What's your sense? What's your feeling in terms of where the Giants are and where they're headed, and how much of a bump has this quarterback given to this entire franchise?
Yeah, I think it's helped, and I think that it's you and I have talked about this. If you want to split the baby GM head coach and say, well, this GM brought in this quarterback. Well, the head coach had a lot of say in the draft process and fell in love with Jackson Dart. So he's a big reason why he's here as well. And I think it's a start of, look, we're developing this guy. We've got this thing moving in the right direction. It may only be 5-6 wins at the end of the year, coming after the previous year where they were hanging by a thread. You go, well, that's not enough. Well, it may wind up being enough. And I like what I see from this team. This is starting to feel like a core is being built here, a cohesive core, and key pieces in the right place. So, and the schedule on the back end, like you may get yourselves, and John Mara has been affected by, what happens in week 15, 16, 17, 18 before. So I think that this team could finish the season strong. Brian Daboll continues, and then we kind of see where the Giants go beyond this as you start to, like I say, use that capital in the draft and free agency and whatever to start building this entire thing out.
Yeah, don't be taking $150K out of their pocketbooks every week, and people might not be that angry with you. Win some games.
It doesn't come off the salary cap, I'll tell you that much.
That is true. That is true. Well, I see you there on Sunday at the Link, Mike.
Yes, we'll be there early for NFL Network for NFL Game Day morning and all our coverage from down there at the Link. So
awesome. Well, Mike Garafolo, big day today. Crazy breaking news. Thanks for joining me for a couple minutes. Appreciate it. I know you're always all in.
You beat me to it. I'm all in, Art. I'm all in.
I appreciate it, Mike. And for Paul Wood, our producer, and Mike, I'm Art. We'll see you Sunday from Philly. Enjoy the game, Giants fans. See if you can get the first sweep. Since Mike was a ye-old beat writer here with the Giants of the Eagles.
When was it?
2007. Something happened in 2007. I can't.
That's the last time they swept them?
Yep. It's been a long time, Mike. Long time.
I remember both of those games, too. They were both good games.
Yeah. I remember the last time the Giants won in Philly. 5 field goals from Josh Brown. Whatever happened to Josh Brown and the Giants? Has he been coming back? Alumni events? No.
Haven't seen him, Art.
Me neither. Everybody have a great weekend. Mike, thanks for everything. We'll see you Sunday in Philly.